Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Hamilton Municipal Heritage Committee to order. A reminder that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during our committee meetings. Please note that quorum is present. So as we go through our roll call, if I can just get you to acknowledge that you're present. Councillor Kretsch. Janice Brown sends her regrets. Karen Burke.
Present.
Graham Carroll.
Present.
Charles Dimitri. Lynn Lundstedt.
Present.
Robin McKee. Timothy Ritchie.
Present.
Will Rosart.
Here.
We will move on to our approval of the agenda. Mr. Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda today?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have one added delegation, item 6.2, Chris and Jen Cavacuti, respecting item 10.1, Heritage Permit Application HP 2023-024 under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the erection of a rear detached accessory structure at 79 Markland Street, Hamilton, PED 23035, Ward 2, and that's for today's meeting.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I see Lynn and Tim.
And as we vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under declarations of interest today, are there anyone declaring interest? Seeing none, we move on to the approval of our minutes of the previous meeting. We have our meeting notes of June 22nd, 2023. May I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I see Graham and Tim.
And if there's no discussion, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under communication items, may I have a mover and a seconder to put the communication items on the floor? We have before us item 5.1 and 5.2, both correspondence items.
I see Tim and Graham.
And are there any questions today in regards to those communication items? If not, we will move to vote to receive the communications. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Under our our delegation requests, may I have a mover and a seconder to put the delegation requests on the floor? We have item 6.1, Amy Schaefer, and 6.2, Chris and Jen Cavacuti.
I see Karen and Tim.
Are there any questions from the committee? If not, as we move to vote on the delegation requests, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. We now move to our delegations. Item 6.1 is Amy Schaefer, Jansen Consulting, respecting item 10.2, Heritage Permit Application HB 2023-028 under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the demolition of a contemporary rear detached accessory structure at 174 Mill Street North in Flamborough, PED 23168, Ward 15. So Amy is here to answer any questions that the committee may have on this item. Are there any questions from the committee? Go ahead, Lynn.
I'm just curious, through the chair, what is that building used for now?
Amy, do we have you there?
Yes, hi, sorry. The building right now isn't really used. The inside is a little dilapidated, so it's just standing there empty.
Yeah, I'm just curious because it's just such an odd shape and like a two-story. I know, I can see that it's not in great shape. I was just curious.
I think it used to be used for younger kids back when it was first built. I know the property owner's brother made it. So it used to be used for storage and maybe like a playhouse type of situation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Is there any other questions for our delegate? If not, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation?
I see Graham and Lynn.
Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Moving on to item 6.2, we have Chris and Jen Cavacuti here to answer questions that the committee has on item 10.1, which is our heritage permit application, HP 2023-024, under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the erection of a rear detached accessory structure at 79 Markland Street in Hamilton, PED 23035, Ward 2. Are there any questions of the committee? Seeing none, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation?
We don't need a mover and seconder because there was no delegation, so we'll just move on to consent items.
Oh, okay, no problem. And consent items, may I have a mover and a seconder to put those consent items on the floor? We have 9.1, our delegated approvals. 9.2 is our Heritage Permit Review Subcommittee meeting notes, and 9.3 is our working group meeting notes from the Education and Communication Working Group.
I see Graham and Tim.
Are there any questions in regards to those items? If not, as we move to vote, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, those items are carried. Under discussion items, 10.1 is our Heritage Permit Application HP 2023-024 under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the erection of a rear detached accessory structure at 79 Markland Street in Hamilton, PED 23035, Ward 2. May I have a, just a mover and seconder? So a mover and seconder to put the recommendations on the floor.
I see Graham and Tim.
And before us, we have the recommendations that are in the report, which includes that the final details of the windows, siding, and roofing material be submitted to the satisfaction and approval of the Director of Planning, that a minor changes to the plans and elevations following approval shall be submitted to the satisfaction and approval of the Director of Planning and Chief Planner, and that construction and site alterations in accordance with this approval shall be completed no later than July 31st, 2025. Any questions in regards to these recommendations? If not, is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. Item 10.2 is our Heritage Permit Application HP 2023-028 under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act for the demolition of a contemporary rear detached accessory structure at 174 Mill Street North in Flamborough, PED 23168, Ward 15. May I have a mover and a seconder to put the recommendations on the floor?
I see Graham and Lynn.
And again, these recommendations are in regards to approval of the this application. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will vote. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried. We now move on to our general information. Under item 13.1 is our buildings and landscapes. Would anyone like to speak to those properties? If we can start a speakers list. So we've got Tim and we've got Graham, Karen as well. Okay. And as before we move on to our updates, is there any additions that anyone would like to make to the list that we should highlight first? Okay. So we'll start with Lynn. Go ahead. Or sorry, with Tim. Sorry, Tim first.
Yeah, it's just not too much to note, but it's about the first building. It looks like all the windows have been removed out of it. I went by there today on public access, and it couldn't see anything for what I think what our real concern for will be that foyer. So I don't know if any updates has come through during the process on whether that sort of, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like a cathedral entrance with the pictures of the Firth brothers and the F and everything. I knew we had concerns when it changed ownership. So I think this might be the second or perhaps third ownership since we first saw it come through permit review. But it looks tarped off and everything that we can see, but it would be good to know. I don't know if staff has any contact with that about knowing that that entranceway is being preserved. Thank you.
Through the chair, so Alyssa Golden, Cultural Heritage Program Lead. It was a few months ago now, but we had been in touch with the heritage consultant working on behalf of the owners applicants in terms of the status of what's happening with the interior foyer. And there were some minor revisions based on some of the plans, but certainly no concern on our end, but we have been in touch in recent past.
Graham?
All my properties seem pretty stable, except on the way down today, I stopped by the Long and Bisbee building again on Sanatorium, and there was another window kicked in the back. One of the boarding was done. This let Lisa know when I came in here. So she was going to let MLE know and the property owners. But that's the only one for my own property. But Janice Brown emailed me some updates about her properties and asked me to report on them. So in the red category, 163 Jackson, the Pinehurst building. She says the building's completely demolished, all the materials have been removed. The excavated portion has been leveled and filled in with gravel. The perimeter grounds have been mowed and the front landscaping has been addressed, and so far, all garbage removed. The property is now totally fenced in and Pinehurst has been identified with signage as the site office. 52 Charlton, the fencing has been removed and is currently for sale. This is under the yellow categories. And at 4 Turner, the house is for sale and the severed lot says coming soon for sale. I guess that's a bit of a change in the status on that one. And she does have a couple of questions for staff. One was 68 Charlton West. Was there any updates on the status of that building? Was anything coming through, like permits or anything?
Through the chair, so no active applications on that property. As you might recall, that's the recently designated two buildings that are attached with that that connection that we designated last fall. No formal applications at this point, and we do know that the delegates, when we designated, had indicated that they were working with Heritage Consultants to bring forward an application.
Okay, and the other one she wanted to know was 98 James Street South. What is the status of the current permit, and has been any movement with the new developer?
Through the chair, so as you might recall, we gave an update in terms of the required monitoring for 98 James Street South a few months back. We have been in touch since then in terms of looking for additional monitoring since the last submission, so they are working on that, and we do expect to hear back from them soon. We had asked for a confirmation as per some of the comments made by this committee a few months back, just to get confirmation of the status of some of the salvage features that were being stored on site as well. So we are waiting for that updated report from them. And if I remember correctly, in terms of the conversations, they were working towards hopefully having some sort of strategy and action plan for a new proposal by this fall. So we do anticipate that that would be coming forward soon.
Excellent. And then our last question was 54 to 56 Hess. What is the status of the water damage on the southwest stone wall and soffit directly under the chimney?
Through the chair, I know that that was reported to municipal law enforcement. I can certainly circle back around to confirm the status of that, but it had been reported and action was being taken on the downspout that was disconnected there.
Okay, that's all their questions.
Thank you, Graham. And Karen, you had an update on your properties?
Thank you. I had 2 updates to report. The first one is in the red category where we had 6 Tally Ho, and that house was at that house was up for sale, and it's no longer on the market. I don't believe it's been sold, so we may choose to remove it from the list now. It has been on and off the market a few times through the years, so it's off again. And the second update I had was in the yellow category, 24 King Street West, which is the Majestic Theater, also known as the Horn of Plenty building. And that was up for sale, and it was purchased by the person who owns the next building over, 26 King Street West, which is Cumbrae's Butcher Shop. So, and that tenant has been there, or owner has been there for quite a while, I believe. So I think that's a positive sign that it was bought by somebody who already is settled in Dundas in terms of business. And so we'll see how that goes. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you, everyone, for all those updates. Is there any other further updates that we need to do on any properties? Oh, go ahead, Graham.
I wonder if we can get a couple of properties removed. Janice wanted 2 taken off her list, and I think the Rastrick house is very stable right now. We put it on there for purpose because it was transitioned from the sale of the old owners to the new ones, and the property's been kept neat, clean. I haven't seen any issues, so there's no reason for it to be on the list anymore.
No, I think, so if we want, maybe let's start with each property to help Matt just go through the list. You want to start with the Rastrick house, and then we can.
So that's, I believe, 47 Forest Avenue.
Through the chair, so that's 46 Forest Avenue. It's item C, II in Hamilton.
Thank you. Okay, and
So let's do them individually. So do we have a seconder to put forward that removal from the list?
I see
And-
Robin.
Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried.
okay, and Janice Brown mentioned to take 50 to 54 Binkley off.
Through the chair, so that's, it's the Binkley property at 50 to 54 Sanders Boulevard, which is item BXX under Hamilton.
Okay. So we have a mover. Do we have a seconder to remove that property?
I see Lynn.
And is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, that item is carried.
And the last one Janice mentioned is the Arlo House at 206 Main West.
We'll do questions. Yeah.
Through the chair, so that's CV under Hamilton.
Is there a seconder?
Tim, seconder.
Tim.
And then I think, Will, did you have a question in regards to?
Yeah, I think Arlo House is one of our store. Why are we taking it off the list?
Graham, did Janice explain?
Unfortunately, Janice did not put any justifications in there, so how about we just put that on hold for the next
Hold for the
meeting
next-
then? So she can answer the questions directly,
Okay.
because I can't answer for her.
Okay.
Has staff, I'm sorry,
It's on.
has staff heard anything about the property that we should be changing or watching?
Through the chair, so no, there hasn't been any activity on our end. The property is currently listed on the Municipal Heritage Register, and I believe the original reason for putting it on the watch list was some concern about just the development happening adjacent to it, but no action on our end to report.
Is Arlo not designated?
Through the chair, no, the property is currently listed on the Municipal Heritage Register, but it's not designated in the Act.
Okay. Thought it was.
Are there any other property updates? If not, may I have a mover and a seconder to receive those updates? And is there anyone opposed to receiving
See,
them?
I saw Tim and Karen.
And no one opposed? That item is carried. Do we have any new business today? Graham?
A person who's been before our committee several times before, Dr. Sarah Sheehan. Sadly, we're losing her from the Hamilton community. She's moving to Ottawa to help look after her aging parents, to make sure they age well and stay in her house. But unfortunately, we're losing her from assistance here in Hamilton, and it does not look like her and her wife are coming back either. Like they're going to stay up there in the future. So it's going to be a big loss to the heritage of Hamilton, and we know how much she's done. And I remember the first time we met her through the presentation for the Hands Hotel. I was quite impressed with her. So sadly, we're losing her.
Well, we want to send our well wishes to Sarah and her family, and hopefully it will be a loss for the heritage community because she has done a great deal. So thank you for bringing that forward, Graham. Are there any, no, just an update. Is there any other new business? No? May I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn today's meeting then?
I saw Tim and Graham.
Unless there's new business. Yeah, that's-
Yes, through the chair, I understand this is the new model for the amount of time that the meetings will be going forward. Excellent. Seconded.
This may be a new record.
Should be longer than right here.
We can sit here, but. So mover and a seconder?
I saw
Anyone-
Tim and Graham.
Anyone opposed? Apparently you are. If there's no one opposed, then that item is carried, and our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 22nd. Well, everyone enjoy your day.
Thank you.